is CNN.
Lawmakers race to wrap up some unfinished business after pulling an all-nighter at the Capitol. A crisis at sea. The Coast Guard says it doesn't know where it's going to put all the boat people who are fleeing Haiti. This is Early Prime on Lou Waters. Cheryl Atkinson is off. Also this hour, a report on how to make a living will work for you. And President Bush is caught off guard by a microphone that was supposed to be turned off. The top story, the United States says it will be ready to host the next round of Middle East peace talks next week in Washington, beginning December 4th. But the U.S. also says it's up to individual countries to decide whether to come and on which date. The U.S. emphasized it will not attempt to dictate when those talks resume. State Department spokeswoman Margaret Tutwiler made the announcement after Israel asked for a postponement of the date offered by the United States. The Israelis had asked for a 5-day delay. During the past month, the United States Coast Guard has rescued more than 5,000 Haitians fleeing their country in rickety boats. A shelter is being built at the naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, but it will only hold about 2,500 people. The question now, what to do with the others? CNN's John Zarella has our report.
The tiny pontoon boat bobbed in the wind-driven 8-foot seas. A Coast Guardsman clutching a nearly naked Haitian baby struggles to hand the infant up to the waiting arms on the big cutter. It is a drama being played out hour after hour in the tumultuous seas of the Windward Passage. The Rear Admiral running the rescue operation is calling it a major crisis at sea.
This is the largest seagoing operation the Coast Guard's ever undertaken in the Caribbean and this part of the southeast United States.
During a news conference in Miami, Rear Admiral Robert Kramick called the conditions for the Haitians onboard Coast Guard cutters deplorable. Yet, as they arrive at Guantanamo, the refugees sing and clap their hands. Although the U.S. government wants to eventually return them to their homeland, these people remain hopeful. Soon, even at Guantanamo, there may be no more room. The tent city being built, Kramick says, is nowhere near big enough.
I have so many Haitians on board our vessels at this time that even the refugee camp that's being built at this time as a temporary holding facility in Guantanamo Bay can be filled up just by the numbers of personnel I have on the ships at this time.
With every available Coast Guard cutter now being used in the operation, Kramick says he needs more help soon or he won't be able to rescue all the Haitians. 29 Haitians who died several years ago at sea were mourned Wednesday during a symbolic funeral procession. 29 hearses drove through the streets of Miami and past the Immigration and Naturalization Service offices. A silent protest to U.S. policy. John Zarella, CNN, Miami.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are scrambling to finish up work on several bills so they can head home for the holidays. Among the latest developments, the death for now of the crime bill. The Senate Republicans have blocked action on that legislation with a promised filibuster. The bill would have expanded the death penalty and created a 5-day waiting period for handgun purchases, but President Bush said it wasn't tough enough. He promised to veto it. One other matter that will remain unresolved for now, the economy. The House Ways and Means Committee will hold hearings after Thanksgiving on an economic growth package that would include a number of tax cut proposals, but right now there are no plans to call House and Senate members back into full session until after Christmas.
The worst thing we can do right now, the very worst thing we can do in the Congress, is to raise expectations to the public that somehow there is a quick fix or a magic solution to the problems that confront the economy. All I'm suggesting is, despite the fact that it is the 11th hour, we should act now. We should try to do something about the economy now.
Among the other developments today on the Hill, both houses approved a $151 billion transportation bill that would create 4 million jobs over the next 6 years. And the House has approved 2 bills that would pump as much as $95 billion into the government insurance programs for banks and savings and loans. More disturbing economic numbers today. Personal income rose just 0.2% in October, the poorest showing since July. In addition to that, consumer spending fell by 0.3%, the biggest drop since April. That news follows a report that consumer confidence has slipped to its lowest level since 1980. However, durable goods orders, those are the big items, washers, dryers, refrigerators, and such, up 3% after back-to-back monthly declines. Maryland wants to tie welfare in the state to what it calls greater personal responsibility. State welfare officials propose cutting benefits for those who don't send their children to school or don't seek proper preventive health care. The idea is to make recipients responsible for their actions and promote greater family well-being. Those cuts and other proposed changes would require approval of the state legislature and the federal government. The United States and Britain are pressuring Libya to hand over 2 men charged in the bombing of a Pan Am jumbo jet over Scotland 3 years ago. In a joint statement issued today, Washington and London are demanding that Libya pay compensation to families of the 270 people killed in the bombing of Flight 103 and turn over any information it has on the attack. No word on what action might be taken if Libya does not comply, but one U.S. official says all options are open. It sometimes seems as though politicians answer questions they haven't been asked. That's just what President Bush did yesterday, only this is with a twist. He answered the right questions, but in the wrong order. It happened during a Q&A session between the president and a California teachers group, a conversation carried by satellite phone hookup. White House staffers told Mr. Bush he'd be asked questions in a certain order, but something went wrong, and Mr. Bush ended up giving the right answers to the wrong questions. He then made it worse by leaving his microphone open for the rest of the world to hear.
We lost everything. These questions, we got to get this sorted out. It happened last week too. We're getting something's going awry here. I mean, if I just listen to the question, I can answer whatever it is. But if I think it's going to be on here, I don't listen to the question. I just look at them. But then, well, did we have the proper answer for vouchers on here?
And another communication problem at the White House, it seems. Among the stories coming up on Early Prime, Americans on the move by the millions all across the United States. This is not just a weekend for Thanksgiving, but for travel. Biosphere 2, Promised Land or Promise Broken? The Glaston world in the desert is again embroiled in a controversy. Later in the hour, your estate. You can't take it with you, but you can reduce the taxman's bite after you're gone. And Jamie Lee Curtis and Dan Aykroyd reunite for a bittersweet comic tragedy with that Home Alone kid, Mulcahy Culkin.
CNN's Early Prime, news and information for people in the prime of life.
It is from Kodak. It delivers the highest resolution, microfine grain, superior image structure for ultra-sharp detail.